So, why are full moons so powerful? Why do they tend to bring everything up to the surface? Can anyone relate to noticing that during the full moon, we tend to feel more? We tend to have things come up to the surface or get more intense. I used to work for a doctor, and she would tell me, Lotus, it's the full moon again. I don't want to go into work because people are going to be acting differently. They're going to have mood swings. Why is it so intense? So, what is the reason for this? Well, there's several. Numero uno, number one, is that when we have a full moon, astrologically, it means that the sun, which represents our soul, it represents shining, it represents really big, bright energy of illumination, our purpose, why we're here, is directly diametrically opposed or opposite to the moon. And so you can think about the sun and the moon like two sides of a battery. And you have the positive, that'd be the sun, and the negative, the moon. And that also would represent the masculine and the feminine principle. So during the time of the full moon, these two energies come into polarity or opposition. That means they're directly opposite each other on the zodiacal wheel, which is a circle, which is nice. I have the circle behind me. And so that opposition, that polarity, creates like an electrical charge in the same way when you place two batteries into a device, it activates your device. So you think, well, isn't this a really wonderful thing, right? We have energy. The full moon creates energy. Well, it is. However, it also can create tension between the two sides in a similar way that men and women often talk about, well, sometimes we have some tension or arguments, or we don't see things the same way. Well, the sun and moon are quintessentially opposite energies. And so when they come together in this opposite signs at the full moon, you have two energies that see things in totally different points of view. So not only is the sun all about shining and illumination and following our purpose and kind of expanding beyond our limits, well, the moon is opposite that. The moon is about our comfort zone. It's about what feels safe, what feels familiar. It's the feminine nurturing principle. And so where the sun is that external expansion, the moon is more of the internal being held and nurtured. And so when they're opposite, we might feel one side of us wants to do this, and one side of us wants to do the exact opposite thing. And so there can be some tension. Now, the great thing about tension, and I share this a lot, is that tension creates, right? In the same way that a man and a woman coming together can create a baby, or in the same way that if you pull a bowstring back on a bow and arrow, you pull it back, and you create lots of tension. That's what an opposition between two planets is creating tension. That tension, when you release it, will send the arrow really far. And so, what I like to say about these sun moon oppositions, these full moon times, is there could be a lot of tension come to the surface, but it's all acting in your favor to push you forwards. Now, why does it feel in our bodies? You understand, okay, the sun and the moon are opposite, they're in opposite signs, they're opposite energies, but why do I feel so much energy at the full moon? It's because the moon affects everything that has water. Just like when we go to the ocean and we stand in the sand and we feel the pull of gravity from the waves pulling us, right? The moon creates those tides in the same way that it creates the tides in the water. It affects everything that has water. So that includes all of the water in our body. It includes all of the water that is out in nature. Like, for instance, gardeners and farmers have known for thousands of years that the moon cycles affect the growing of the plants. In fact, many farmers to this day, you'll get the Farmer's Almanac and it will show you the moon signs and the best times to plant specific plants. And typically, they advise you to plant root vegetables at the time of the new moon and uh, above ground watermelon, broccoli, those things that blossom above the earth before the full moon. And why is that? Because the moon affects the water in the ground. So at the time of the new moon, when you can't see the moon and the moon and the sun are in the same sign working together, the water of the earth gets pulled down into the root system. It goes underground. And so that's why at the new moon, we feel more internal. We feel more quiet. We feel more focused on our roots. And then as the moon gets bigger and bigger and bigger, that gravitational pull of the moon literally begins to pull and draw the water in the plants up from the roots, up into the stem, and then by the time of the full moon, into the blossom. And that's why farmers for thousands of years have known, okay, we plant our root vegetables at the new moon, and then we harvest our food, we harvest our flowers at the time of the full moon, because all the water has traveled from the roots all the way up into the blossom or into the fruit. And so why is this important for us? Why does knowing that the moon affects the waters? Well, they also affects our body. So we're almost all water. And so at the time of the new moon, our energy tends to go more internal. The water of our body actually goes more internal. But then as the moon gets bigger, just as the moon is affecting all of the plants and the water in the plants to travel upwards, it also causes the waters in our body to expand and come towards the surface. And so we tend to feel, sense, experience more intensely and more powerfully at the time of the full moon. That's why hidden things we've had in our bodies for a long time, emotions or traumas or fears or insecurities that maybe we've held inside, begin to come up to the surface, almost agitated by the power of the moon, drawn to the surface. And so that's why the doctor I worked for would dread going to work on the full moon, because it would bring all her patients' stuff up to the surface. Now, if you're someone who is focused on personal growth, if you're someone who's always working to become better and improve and evolve and expand, then this process of the full moon bringing things up to the surface is actually an opportunity to heal on a deeper level. It's actually an opportunity to transform on a deeper level. And so if you've wondered, why does it get so intense at the full moon? It's an opportunity to heal that which has been hidden. It's an opportunity for more light, just as the light of the moon gets bigger and brighter. Our awareness of that which has been within us, and the moon also represents emotion. And so that greater light quotient of the moon represents the illumination of that which has been hidden.